Who are my six favorite breakout sleepers for fantasy football 2026? Break it down right here and right now as we begin another edition of Locked On Fantasy Football.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NFL fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Fantasy Football Podcast, part of Locked On Podcast Network, now the number one sports podcast network. I'm one of your co-hosts, Vinnie Iyer. When I'm not doing this, I'm writing about NFL fantasy and betting for sportingnews.com. My co-host, Michelle, is off today, but I'm going to catch up and match what she did last Friday. If you missed that show, check it out. Really good job Michelle did on her breakout sleeper. She picked six players that really stood out. She went across positions, Tyler Shuck and Bashal Tootin being two of the highlights from that show. So really getting into the second year players who could break out. And I've got some on my list as well that I want to look at here. So I've got six different guys that you can also put on your fantasy draft list, put them in highlighter to look at them as the offseason develops as people that you want to target in drafts. So let's dive right into it. Now, Michelle did like Rome Odunze. That makes a lot of sense. But I also like the other Bears wide receiver. And you might be looking at the boards right now and saying, why is Luther Burden III going ahead of Rome Odunze in drafts? Well, I think it's a position he plays. And also, DJ Moore's gone. They're going to have to replace those vacated targets. Now it's the Burden and Odunze show, as well as Colston Loveland out of the backfield there, as well as just getting Talbot guy DeAndre Swift involved. So we're going to have Loveland there in line, a very good player there, but he's a better player at stretching the field. Now you got these two wide receivers that you're looking at as well to really change the course of this. And we love Caleb Williams as a fantasy sleeper. Now, Luther Burden, why he's very highly ranked this year, we might ask that question, is that he plays the slot position in the Ben Johnson offense, which was occupied in Detroit by the high volume, highly productive, very consistent Amon-Ra St. Brown. Now, I think Odunze is on the outside, so he's more than Jameson Williams in this offense. We've drawn a comparison from Sam Laporta to Colston Loveland as they move him out of the line and move him into positions to make plays downfield. Now, Burton is going to be the glue guy, however, the guy that gets open in the middle of the field, the guy that's going to move the chains. We saw some flashes of this. He can also make some big plays. Remember, he had that game where he had only 3 catches and pushed over 100 yards last year. When he got the opportunity, he flashed big time. They like this receiver. He was battling some injuries coming out of Missouri. He's a really traditional big play slot guy that you really want. He can also score touchdowns and be effective in the red zone, the way that Amon-Ra has evolved here. So I really like him. He's really high. I mean, look at him as wide receiver 21. Last year, he was wide receiver 50 in total, wide receiver 58 in average scoring, but he hardly saw the field as a rookie. Really, they were slow to get Burden and Loveland on the field. Loveland just took off in the second half. Burden still had to wait his turn with Moore ahead of him, but Moore is gone, and he is going to dominate here the targets, I think. I think Burden, it would be very shocking if he doesn't lead the team in targets, just edging Odunze and Loveland here. Target volume should be there. He also is going to have the efficient routes who can come through in the middle of the field and score touchdowns for you. I think he'll have a good shot to lead this team in receiving touchdowns over Odunze and Loveland. So really, he's the best of both of those receivers. Odunze as the wide receiver, Loveland as the intermediate target there. I think Burton merges those things and becomes the true go-to guy here for Caleb Williams. And I just will watch out for all the buzz that's coming up because it's going to happen throughout the off seasons. We get into workouts and all that. Luther Burden is definitely going to get that treatment in the mini camps through training camp all the way in the preseason. So this is maybe a low end for him right now at wide receiver 21. Now, the running back 23 on the board is someone I also really like, Quinshon Judkins. I know he ended the season with a major injury, but you have a new coaching staff with Todd Monken taking over. There they did some efforts to try to change up the offensive line. They were getting old. They had to move on from some of those older guys, Jedrick Wills, Jack Conklin, Wyatt Teller. All those guys are gone, as well as no more Joel Bitonio. So when we're looking forward, the Browns are turning the page, but Judkins is a very dynamic runner. He was very explosive when he was on the field. And the talent is just there. We saw with Travion Henderson. We've seen it with Judkins, both coming out of that Ohio State backfield. He's a thumper. He should easily lead the Browns in touchdowns this season. Again, Monken just came from turning Derrick Henry into a rejuvenated, dominant back with big back-to-back seasons. I'm not saying Judkins is the second coming of Derrick Henry, but he's going to have every opportunity to be in a run-heavy offense, pound the ball between the tackles, and be very productive. So last year we also saw it a little bit more. He was actually RB23 in average scoring, RB26 overall. So he's right on the cusp of consistent RB2 production in the top 24. Now, look, it may not be much of a breakout, but I think it's already a win if he can come back healthy and be effective in a new offense. They still might not be done. They could change quarterback and go get Ty Simpson in the draft in the first round if they choose to do so. But they're Shedeur Sanders and the approach they have now, I still think they'll be a run-oriented heavy offense. I didn't see enough of Dylan Sampson when healthy to go there. The Browns also were very wary of adding any veteran help there, so they really believe in Judkins coming back healthy and being strong and effective in the new Todd Monken offense. So, again, bad teams, running back, sometimes questionable, but Judkins really gave this offense a spark here last season when he was on the field. He had some explosive ability. I think he hit a bit of a rookie wall. We saw the injury there, but he should come back fully healed to be a big part of what they do here in Cleveland. So, again, Bird and Judkins, two second-year players. It's kind of a theme here that we want to watch out for. Second-year players, those are the guys you want to target. I have one more of those to look at. We've talked about plenty for Jackson Dart, Tyler Shock, but Cam Ward tends to be the forgotten the second-year quarterback. He's a number one overall pick. He shouldn't have that status. We'll get into why I really like Cam Ward as a deep sleeper for a breakout in our next segment. All right, this episode of Locked On Fantasy Football is brought to you by Indeed and Indeed sponsored jobs. If you're hiring, Indeed is all you need. Workplace chaos, deadline stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill is still sitting open. When the pressure is on and you need the right hire, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Indeed sponsored jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for, skills, experience, location, so you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies such as yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time worrying and searching and more time discovering and searching and interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Spend less time searching, more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of Locked On Fantasy Football will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Let's go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions to apply. Need to hire. Indeed is all you need. All right, we'll get into why I really like Cam Ward as a sleeper in a moment, but a quick reminder, don't forget to check out the Everydayer Club. It's a good time to join, get in the off season, so you're attached to us on Discord throughout the draft time and getting into the regular season. You'll get ad-free episodes and access to a group chat Discord with Michelle and me and other listeners of the show. Tap the link on the show notes or go to lockedonfantasyfootball.supercast.com. Now let's go to Cam Ward, and now he's ranked QB 24 on the board. He actually, on average, was QB 22, so that's already dissing. He didn't play every game, which is a plus. He was QB 41 when you totaled everything up last year, only 11 X points per game, so very little here, depending on your scoring system, not where you're looking at a quarterback. So when you're looking at Cam Ward, he's got all the ability, and those last four games say it all. Like, this seems to be an indication of the breakout teams and players. What do they do in the final 6 games, final 4 games? Well, Cam Ward was exceptional. He was actually a usable fantasy quarterback, and that kind of strong finish and getting those multiple touchdowns in for those successive games pushed him into that QB 22 on average finish here. So when you look at that, that's better, right? I mean, 41 is very low, but you see, he doesn't have to go too far to get up into real great consideration when you look at his numbers. He just has to push to 17 or 18 points per game. And that definitely is within reach. You got Wandale Robinson. Calvin Ridley is there in the mix. I know they moved on from Chigakonko, but they do have Gunnar Helm, who they like. Don't forget, they also have those young receivers, including Alec Ianamore, who is special. And I think Chimere Dike will have a bigger role here beyond just being a special team scrimmage yardage kind of rack up guy in this offense. And they're not done. They should draft a wide receiver here in April. Just get a guy that probably is a high draft pick that can make an impact. Maybe we get a Cardinal Tate, maybe we get Jordan Tyson, Makai Lemon. I'll take any of those guys into the mix with Cam Ward in year two. You got Brian Daboll's the play caller. He did some really good work with Jackson Dart last year when he was still with the Giants before they moved on from him. You saw some flashes there early from Dart before we had Daboll dismissed there in New York. So I really like it. They'll open it up. Saleh is the head coach. They'll know on the other side offense, he's been complimentary to Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers. So he knows the importance of that, playing off a good passing game and efficient offense overall. And Cam Ward is going to be at the controls of that. Speaking of the 49ers, let's cross over, go all the way from Nashville, where George Kittle lives, to George Kittle's teammate, Ricky Pearsall. Now, he came up in our show, Last Chance Players, make or break type season. He's there. But I'm going to call it as a make season for Ricky Pearsall. Now, 49ers, we'll see what they do in the draft. That'll be a big indication. I still think they might target more of a slot guy because they only picked up Christian Kirk so far in free agency to fill that role. Look, Jawan Jennings and Brandon Ayuk are going to be gone, as well as Deebo Samuel. George Kittle might take a few games to get back on the field here after his torn Achilles. Mike Evans is going to be the go-to guy. Mike Evans is going to draw attention downfield and in the red zone. That's going to open things up in the rest of the field. Now, Christian Kirk is a dedicated slot. He's a short area guy. Ricky Pearsall is a first-round pick. They want him to have a big impact, and they needed to maybe treat him a little bit in that Brandon Ayuk role if healthy. So it really comes down to health for me for Ricky Pearsall. He really did flash when he had the opportunities with volume and health and some big plays there in San Francisco. And I think what you'll see here is Pearsall stepping into a nice role here where he doesn't have to be the guy. He's not going to get double teamed. He's not going to be the only option on this team. Mike Evans is definitely going to draw some attention downfield. When George Kittle is at full speed, you got to account for him as well. So Ricky Pearsall could be operating against a lot of favorable number two corners on the outside, has good speed and quickness on his own ability here. He was drafted kind of to replace Deebo Samuel. Maybe we'll see some of those wrinkles with his speed and quickness. He's a very talented receiver. He just needs to stay healthy on the field and be treated kind of as that complimentary guy versus the number one, which you might think as it being a first round draft pick that the 49ers would go in that direction. But clearly they're not. Mike Evans is that alpha, that X is going to stretch the field and make some plays. And you're looking at Pearsall as more of the Z in this mix with Kirk right now filling the Y. So all that is good here for Brock Purdy. He has the best chemistry. Kirk and Evans are new to this team, so Brock Purdy is going to be leaning on Pearsall in the transition away from Jennings here this season to go there. And if Kittle has to miss time, all the more reason to like Pearsall having a bigger role here for Brock Purdy early in the season. So again, he was way off the radar. He was a wide receiver 56, so right down there with Luther Burden last year. Now he's at wide receiver 41, so 20 spots lesser than a Burden, and also considered more as a wide receiver 4, where Burden is right there as a borderline wide receiver 2. So there's a big difference. So I don't think you need as big of a spike here from Ricky Pearsall to pay off, but I think he's going to be more productive than a lot of people think. He cannot be the forgotten man in this past game. It's a very effective one with some big numbers there from Purdy. So Ricky Pearsall is going to be a big part of it no matter what they do in the draft with Kirk in the mix. in the slot. Now, we'll get into two more guys I like. These are not second year players, but they are backups who should have elevated roles after they sign some deals in free agency. I'll reveal who those last two of my favorite breakout sleepers are in our final segment. All right, this episode of Locked On Fantasy Football is also brought to you by Home Chef. This time of year, all you want is something warm, easy, and satisfying. That's why Home Chef has become such a go-to. Takes the stress out of dinner, makes it simple to actually enjoy cooking. And Home Chef makes cooking easy with fresh, pre-portioned ingredients, simple recipes, and meals that taste great. The quality is legit, even chef-inspired recipes from names such as Gordon Ramsay and Giada De Laurentiis, and everything's portioned out so there's less prep there, and you can always count on tons of variety, over 30 meals each week, so it never gets repetitive. Meals are quick, from 30-minute recipes to oven-ready options when you don't want to think, and make cooking easier. So it just makes dinner feel manageable even on the busiest days of the week. For a limited time, Home Chef is offering listeners 50% off and free shipping for your first box, plus free dessert for life. Go to homechef.com/LockedOnNFL. That's homechef.com/LockedOnNFL for 50% off your first box and free dessert for life. You must be an active subscriber to receive free dessert. This episode of Locked On Fantasy Football is also brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Welcome to the 5 Hour Energy flavor draft with 18 different flavors to choose from, including new options such as confetti craze, fruity rainbow, or cotton candy. There's something for everyone. The board is set, the flavors are ready, and I've got my number one pick for the 5 Hour Energy draft. Now, I'm going on vacation soon to the beach, so I'm already feeling those vibes. So I'm going with Tropical Burst, tasty caffeine with island vibes, a delicious combination of pineapple and apricot flavors, juicy, fruit forward tropical profile, sweet with a light tang, smooth rounded flavor, bright and sunny taste impression, island style fruit punch. Yeah, I'm going to dig it and definitely think about that a lot when I'm on vacation to help me have a lot of energy throughout the day. They give you a boost of zero sugar when you take a 5 hour shot. You have all the upcoming innovations are planned. You can try so many flavors. Strawberry banana is another one I like. Hawaiian breeze right now. If you're still thinking about going on the vacation and beach and all that good stuff, find your new favorite flavor of 5 hour energy shots available online at 5hourenergy.com or Amazon. Check it out today. Get it on 5 Hour Energy. Pick your own favorite in the 5 Hour Energy flavor draft. All right, it is time to close the show. Look at two more of my breakout sleepers here. So we have a good list now compiled. I hope you're taking notes with all of Michelle's picks and now my 6 picks. I've had 4 recapping the show so far. I've gone to Luther Bird III and Quinshon Judkins. Went for another receiver and Ricky Pearsall just now. And my quarterback that I'm looking at is Cam Ward. Now it's time to go to another running back, Tyler Allgeier. This is just going on the premise of I don't trust James Conner returning to the Cardinals as a healthy option for that team. Tyler Allgeier, I thought, okay, he's going to be good to go here. He's going to take over the lead role. I still think that could happen, folks. James Conner is battling injury and attrition. He can stay on the field. Trey Benson, his upside backup, also got hurt. They tried in all these other guys like Michael Carter, Amari DeMercado, Bam Knight. These are just guys, folks. Tyler Allgeier has been really good. And I think the underrated part of Tyler Allgeier's system value is the fact that he's a very good pass blocker. So he's going to stay on the field in these particular downs. He's actually not a zero as a receiver either. So got Jacoby Brissett coming there. Brissett's a veteran. He's going to trust a guy that's going to help keep him upright. You have your backup quarterback now is Gardner Minshew. So they want a guy in the backfield they can trust. Hey, coach, I need Tyler Allgeier in the backfield in most situations because I want to be well protected when I'm dropping back to pass. So he's got that ability, which is going to keep him on the field. Now, James Conner was also good at that. I think that's what made Conner a appealing guy in the first place. And Allgeier had some of those qualities only in a younger, volume less package here that can really produce. And he's a very good finishing runner. We know in the red zone, he was very productive in his own right. That's why he was a thorn in the side of Bijan Robinson managers here in fantasy. He was out there because he's good. He's a good back, and that's why he got paid here as a backup elevated. And again, I absolutely do not trust Connor holding up again. The wheels were about to come off with his agent injury attrition last year. They did. I don't think it's suddenly going to get back on track here as an older back. They brought it back on the cheaper side, but I think it's going to be more James Conner is the insurance because they just don't want to mess with some of these other guys. They want some complete backs with experience that Allgeier has, of course, playing with Bijan Robinson. So I think he'll get elevated here. Like we've seen this before, actually, with the back going the other way. Michael Turner, remember him? Went from the Chargers to the Falcons. He was very productive there as a fantasy player when he joined Matt Ryan in that offense. So similar things can develop here in the desert. Jacoby Brissett, that pass game, were rather busy. You also have now Michael Floor, who likes to dedicate potentially to one back, the way that his coach there in Los Angeles, Sean McVay, did with Kyron Williams seeing a big load. And Algier is a little bit like Kyron Williams. He's capable of pass catcher, does the little things right, runs hard between the tackles, finishes in the red zone. So I really like Tyler Algier's profile here. He's right now RB 34 on the board. So everyone's looking at him as a flex play. Yeah, they're a little wary of the Cardinals in its backfield situation. I think this offense is actually pretty decent to execute when you look at what Jacoby Brissett was able to do last year with Michael Wilson and Trey McBride being the go-to guy. Now, maybe if we get Marvin Harrison, then this offense is not going to be too bad. Where they're going to move the ball, be in position to score, and really help the running game. And Tyler Algier should be a big factor in that this season. Again, follow the money, free agent acquisition who could have a lot of impact. Now, another situation where I would follow the money is Isaiah Likely. I would also follow that Isaiah Likely followed John Harbaugh to New York. So he's now a Giant. I know you have Theo Johnson there, and he's had a pretty good chemistry here with Jackson Dart. Isaiah Likely has been in the shadow of Mark Andrews. I know he's had some injuries of his own in Baltimore that's kept him from being this dominant receiver. But we've seen flashes of how good his athleticism can manifest on the field as a big play target for the quarterback. So, again, let's see what the Giants do. Everyone's kind of pushing them to maybe look at Carnell Tate. We didn't see them go after Alec Pierce. They did lose Wandell Robinson, a significant player there, and what they were doing with targets. They really replaced that option. Malik Neighbors is coming off a major knee injury. Now, you can see a lot of 12 personnel with Likely and Johnson on the field, but Likely could be a big time go to guy. He could be the guy playing off Neighbors, filling in that short area to intermediate receiver role that we saw with Wandell Robinson last year. They go after a guy. I think it's going to be more of a field stretcher, such as a Carnell Tate, someone who can make big plays on the outside, someone who replaces kind of Darius Slayton here. So when I look at this, Isaiah Likely, they did spend on him, and they spent on him early in free agency. So I think they wanted an impact receiving tight end. Likely is a bit of a hybrid wide receiver. I like this kid ever since he came out of Coastal Carolina. Very underrated athlete at the position. He's only at tight end 18 right now, which is kind of surprising to me. I think everyone's worried about the split with Theo Johnson coming up. And I think there's going to be a factor there, but they could also keep both tight ends on the field quite a bit to help the running game, to give different looks, to also put Jackson Dart in position to succeed. So I think this will be a team that uses a good chunk of 12 personnel. They'll get into 11 quite a bit as well, but I think right now their strength lies at tight end. Because again, you got to worry about Neighbors coming back healthy and see how effective he is. No more Robinson there, so a lot of things in flux with this offense as we go forward. But I think you could see a lot of very productive things here. Matt Nagy is influencing the offense. We know what he did with Andy Reid in Kansas City, really helping with Travis Kelce and his athleticism being a big deal there for that team. So really excited about Isaiah Likely. And these two are the really most overlooked. I think the guy that's pretty obvious that everyone is on so far is Luther Burden. Quinshon Judkins, you can say that about him as well, but still undervalued when you look in the 20s at their positions. Cam Ward, Ricky Pearsall, I think everyone is hopeful but still wary. But Allgeier and Likely are off the radar a bit because of their backup status before they were in their current spots with the Cardinals and Giants. Again, they've been known as the number two, so everyone's a little bit worried. Wary, are they going to step up with the other guys there in Connor and Johnson? I'm going to lean on the side of yes here for Likely. So I'm really excited about the potential of more tight ends being in play of elite value likely breaking free from Mark Andrews is a big part of that. So I think there's going to be a big change in landscape here with the younger players and the players changing teams in free agency all throughout fantasy football. So there you have my 6 breakout players. Just to recap one more time, I got wide receivers Luther Burden and Ricky Pearsall, running backs Quinshon Judkins and Tyler Allgeier. I've got as well Cam Ward at quarterback and looking at Isaiah Likely at tight end. So those are my 6 breakout players across positions here. Compare them with Tyler Shock and Facial Tootin and all the good stuff that Michelle put out there. So that's your list here. I've answered her show. We had a lot of good information for you, the listener. Thanks so much for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen every day. Again, make sure if you never miss an episode to check out the latest episodes and get them ad free by joining the Everyday Air Club. Have a great weekend. We'll see you on Monday with more look at polarizing players at running back.